This is a loft sleeve. This is a tour truck in your pocket. If you take advantage of this, it can make this and this work even better. In today's video, I'm going to get into everything you need to know about the loft sleeve, how you can make it work for your game, what happens if shot shape isn't working for you, loft sleeve, what happens if ball flight isn't working for you, loft sleeve, what happens if the weather turns on you, loft sleeve, what happens if you're too steep on the golf ball, loft sleeve, what happens if you're too shallow, loft sleeve. I could keep going. Let's get into the action. So the beauty of the loft sleeve is it can truly help your performance. Look at this weather today. We've got a little bit of rain and a hair of the breeze and we're hitting into it. So I potentially would go with a different setting on here versus what I would do on a flat calm day. But that has some impact on how the blade looks. Effectively, the loft sleeve, yes, it's your tour truck in a pocket if you have your wrench, but it's going to change the lie and the face angle and the loft. Loft hits the ball, that's why this is one of the most important things that you can have. So if we start in standard, that is going to be a true reflection of the loft on the blade. So this driver I have measures at 9, it says 9 on it. The actual loft on that we know is a little bit more, but for the sake of this video, let's put that down and say we're looking truly at 9 degrees. Then I can look at the lie angle and we're looking probably at 59 degrees between center of the face and shaft. The lie angle, if moved flatter, will push the ball out to the right. If moved more upright, will start the ball to the left. That is called face plane tilt. So if you're someone out there who struggles with a slice for the right-handed golfer, so you'd be putting this golf ball into the maintenance sheds if you were stood here, simply pop the loft sleeve off, and this is where the whole thing works for you. You like the loft on the blade, but your lie angle you want to change. Well, the blank side becomes good to you because now the blank side, as you can see written on the loft sleeve, is upright lie. So you can go same loft as what you started, all the way around the back. So the graphics of the golf shaft you're using will now go on the opposite side. The grip decal will now go on the top. You lay that down and all of a sudden you have an upright lie angle, which means the handle will be higher, but the start line is going to be more to the left. So when you place the golf ball, the golf club down and behind, your numbers on your launch monitor will be the same, but you can see the toe of that club is closer to your nose, and as you hit one, this will be harder to slice and lose to the right, but the lie angle is very upright. I feel as we look at TGL and you get behind and you look at people hitting on that area there, some of the drivers on there look extremely upright, and that is in an attempt for that player not to lose it out to the right. So setting up, boom, boom. So it's come out low at the same loft, but you can see it wants to start left on me. Let's try again, see if we can get a bit more launch on this. That one was hit heel, so it had the height, but if you notice, it hung in there, and hopefully on the tracer you can see that it held its line. Now, windy and a day like today, you'd have to look at your launch monitor to see how you're delivering the golf club. That one would have been a little bit steep. If you're someone who hits the golf ball very high, yes, you want to move your loft sleeve towards lower. And you'll notice there are markings in between as well, so we can go standard. Then you have two other options in between. This is a 2 degree sleeve. I can move the driver 2 degrees stronger. So this now becomes 7 degrees. So there will be less loft to view, but on the same note, the face angle is now pushing to the right. So from a tour point of view, you now need the player to be releasing the golf club. You need the player to be scared of hitting it to the left. If you've got a golfer that, much like my first few golf shots, there was a pull in there and it was moving left because the lie angle, this setting will help you from not losing the ball left. To be fair, I'm probably talking to better players when it comes to getting into the lower side of the sleeve. Yes, the lie angle's moved more upright, but the face angle has gone more open. So if you're someone who tends to miss to the left, now we're in a situation where this is going to be good for you because there's no loft on the blade and also you can release it. I've pushed the ball a little bit further forward because I've got no loft, and I want to send this one in the air. So no spin, but you can see it wants to move to the right because of the face angle. But you can also see on my full swing, it's come out with very little spin. Now you play in conditions like this where you're into the breeze and into the poor weather, and taking the apex down and turning the loft sleeve stronger now helps you because it gives you that flatter ball flight. The other thing is, if you look at smash factor, which is club speed versus ball speed and getting the ratio, as you play less loft, you're now able to get more speed and energy transfer out of the driver. That would be stereotypical of what I would expect to see in this ball flight. Low flight, no spin, coming out with a cut. Okay, so you're the average golfer who struggles to get driver into the air. This last setting, and remember there's everything and all in between, this last setting is exactly where you want to live. We haven't talked about changing the weights yet in the driver, which you can also do, but this is loft sleeve, and it's also key because it hits the golf ball. If you move to higher, you've now added 2 degrees. Adding 2 degrees adds spin, it adds launch. This could well be very beneficial to you. I've got an apex, if we look at that last golf shot, 57 feet. So it was pushed out there into the poor weather, and it was apexing very low and cutting. Remember, I'm using a 7-degree driver for that. So now you've got a face angle where you can see the loft and the blade is turned to the left. So when you get into this one, you're going to see a lot more height. Also, as a golfer, now you don't have to push the ball so far forward in your stance. You can turn onto this one a bit easier. Into this breeze, not ideal. You can feel it coming against us a little bit, but plenty of loft. And that would be a great example of that. Starting down the middle, coming out with too much spin, 3,600, so not efficient, and an apex of 93. But it got rid of the right side miss. It was turny, it had plenty of loft. This is a great start point to your driver. This would be where Darren Clark lived in the day, whereas a lot of other tour players that came out there lived on the lower side in order to get the blade moving away from them. If you're going to get fit for a driver, this is where you have to pay attention to the loft sleeve that you would use, because if I'm going 2 degrees stronger, I could have started with an 11-degree driver, a lofted 10.5, which we would have done with Dustin Johnson, then turned it open or left it there with plenty of loft on the blade. I've had Rory in 11 degrees playing at 8, Jason Day 11 degrees playing at 8, all to get rid of the left miss and to give them more speed because they're returning less loft into the driver. And then we've had other players working the other way. Darren Clark mentioned, Nelly Corder mentioned, because they don't like to see it drift and miss to the right, so then they would turn it with more loft. I've played around with all the settings. Lie angle can help you too with face plane tilt, but overall this is one of the best features of the driver. If you understand it and understand how to use it, pop a round grip on there so you can use it tournament location to tournament location if you travel, or if you get weather like this and you don't want to have a spinny driver, then you can move it to be super strong and plow through the wind and change the apex based on your launch monitor. Hopefully that helps. If you like everything you see, and be sure to hit subscribe. I think this is an essential video for your development as a player. If you understand this going into the fitting, I think it's going to help you in your progress to being a better golfer.